Hey, Coach Sandra, how are we doing today?
Hey, Coach Ian, I am well. And how is everybody else out there? Good afternoon, good morning from wherever you are coming in to see us from. I am Coach Sandra, and yeah, I'm happy to be here with you today, with
For
all of
sure.
you.
For sure. And we got a great topic. We're going to talk a little bit about Agent Orange presumptives, but definitely want to start out with uh, happy Wednesday, veterans, and thank you for spending some time with us today before we get started with today's topic. Sound off in the comments. Let us know where you're tuning in from, what branch, years of service. Happy to see everyone here. Welcome home. If you're not assigned to a coach yet, please get on board and go to vaclaimsinsider.com and get assigned to a coach. Or you could also go through that option to be able to talk to one of our veteran ambassadors, our elite members, and then be able to get signed up that way too if you're just not ready and you got some more questions about the process.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Ian.
Yeah, for sure. So branch I served in was the United States Army. A little bit of time in the 90s. I was 11 Mike. So that's mechanized infantry for those that don't know. And then I got out and then came back in 05, stayed until 2015 and got medically retired for mental health at 90%. And then later on down the road, after struggling and getting denied for claims. Came to VACI as a employee first. I was actually a veteran ambassador first before I was a coach, and got to 100% in a pretty quick amount of time, almost 3 years ago. So I am 100% permanent total. Reside just outside of Austin, Texas, here in Cedar Park. Glorious, hot. Actually, it's not that hot today. It's a cool 86 degrees. I could say that now, not living up north, and Sandra knows too, because she lives in a very temperate and warm climate too, and I would never
I
trade it
do.
for anything. So, Sandra, what about you? You got a great story.
Yes. Well, I'll start off with saying that I'm an Air Force brat. Not a veteran, but my father did serve for 23 years, actually. I lived overseas most of my life. My father was stationed Germany. We were in Spain. We were in Italy. Most of my life was in Italy, actually, after he retired. But what a great experience growing up, military, seeing the world. I acquired this great sense of languages, and so now I speak four fluently because of my exposure growing up overseas. So very proud of my father. All veterans I've been with VACI now, I would say about over 4 years. I started in customer service, and with a great want, if you will, to become a coach, because I just wanted to get in there and help veterans with this disability compensation. So proud to be here every day, proud to serve all veterans, and thank you so much, all of you that are here today, for your service. I greatly appreciate it. So yeah, that's my story. But yeah, like I said, love being a part of this amazing company that all we focus on is truly helping veterans. So we have a great topic for you today, a little specific and well, mainly specific to Agent Orange presumptives, presumptive conditions. So we'll get started here. But if you want to, again, there is a chat feature you can use if you want to tell us what branch you served in, what years, are you a Vietnam veteran, and so forth. So we'd love to see your names pop up.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a couple vets in here, still fighting and speaking South Korea during the Vietnam War era. Welcome, James. Mark Nichols, welcome, United States Army from 69 to 72 at 100%. We know Bob. Welcome,
Awesome.
welcome. Glad to have you here.
Yes,
The frequent
congrats.
Coffee with the Coaches guy. Love to see him here as well. Wayne Kern, Army vet from 68 to 71. Wow. And 12 Bravo. And it's 68 to 69 as well. Thank you for your service as well, Wayne. James Cruz, also Coffee with the Coaches guy. Good afternoon to you as well, sir. Glad to see you here.
Coffee with the Coaches, for those that do not know, if you are a member, an elite member with us here at VA Claims Insider, we do have daily classes. They're Zoom meetings, actually, so video conference, Zoom meetings. And every morning we meet with an array of veterans and we have coffee together. We talk about many topics, but it's almost like meeting with family in the morning before you get ready to go to work or start your day. And we call it Coffee with the Coaches specifically because it starts early and we're having coffee together. But it's one of the great resources that we provide here at VACI, along with many other live classes that are via Zoom, which include obviously Coffee with the Coaches. We also do mental health exam education classes. So for those veterans who are preparing or moving forward with CMP exams, and we also provide medical exam education classes as well. And this is daily. So if you want to learn more about what we do, how we coach, and what this great company is all about, schedule a free discovery call with us and talk to one of our team members. You can also go to vaclaims.help, HELP, to find out more. But we'll have that little banner on our screen here. There it is, for a free discovery call to learn more about us.
Absolutely, and we'll talk a little bit more about the actual subject and getting more into the shout outs of all the veterans are joining. I'm seeing all trail in here on the chat, so welcome here. But I want to knock out that disclaimer real quick if we can. Sure. So we are not accredited agents, VSOs, attorneys, or any other entity recognized by the Department of Veteran Affairs, the VA, and we are not affiliated with the VA in any way. VA Claims Insider is an education-based coaching consulting company for disabled veterans exploring eligibility for increased VA disability benefits and who wish to learn more about that process. VA Claims Insider also connects veterans with our vetted independent medical professionals in our preferred provider network for medical examinations and independent medical opinions for a wide range of disability conditions. That is probably about the fastest way I've done that before, but that's all right. So a little about what we do here too is known as SEM, and it stands for Strategy, Education, and Medical Evidence. Key parts: working up that strategy with your coach, figuring out what that game plan is, and do all those things necessary to figure out what that least path of resistance is. Second part is education, resources, blogs, Facebook Lives, all our classes that Sandra was just talking about. That is a huge instrumental part of this whole process. And anything we give to you as far as blogs goes too, as far as your coach, if you're assigned to a coach. Of course, again, if you're not assigned to a coach, get on there and get that free call with one of our professionals over there, our veteran ambassadors, and or if you're just ready and you think you've already talked to somebody and they've kind of steered you in this way, get on board, get assigned to a coach, and get started. Last but not least, medical evidence. You'll hear this every single time from one of your coaches as well. Medical evidence is what wins claims, hands down, every single time. Okay, whether it's your private medical records, your military STRs, or your SRBs, whatever that is, or even your VA records. Medical evidence is medical evidence. Okay, so there's the SEM method. You do get a one-on-one coaching. Okay, so you're one-on-one with that coach, like with myself or with Sandra. Or one of the other coaches, one of the wonderful coaches that are across our organization. That first part, again, is going to be your strategy session after you've had the welcome call. So you have a welcome call first, and then you'll have a strategy session with your coach. That's your game plan. That's what figures out what's the least path to resistance. After we've established that, you're going to build your claim. You are going to build your claim. We are going to provide strategy and all those things and education with that. But you yourself are going to submit your claim. Okay, so that's the other part. Is going to be the claim submission, but we'll be on the phone call with you or a Zoom call, whatever would have to be. CMP education is a big part of it too. Coaching you through that process to make sure that you are good to go with that CMP exam. We do not want you to fall short or fall through the cracks and not have some kind of education or coaching through that process. It's so important because that is the most important day of the VA claims process. So with that, I'm going to let Sandra talk about our live classes via Zoom.
Yes, thank you, Ian. And I do see a couple comments in the chat here, and we'll get to question and answer in a little bit. So I do see you guys, and we will be addressing those questions in a second here. But yes, let's start with today's topic again, Agent Orange presumptives. So we're going to start with discussing understanding the effects of Agent Orange, and understanding that is crucial for you and others who served in the Vietnam era. Our aim is to help you become more informed about the health conditions linked to Agent Orange exposure and the resources that are available to support you through this process. So today, specifically, we're going to explore the history of Agent Orange, its symptoms, and the health issues that unfortunately it may cause. So a little bit of history for those that don't know. Agent Orange was a herbicide that was used during the Vietnam War, and primarily this was used between 1962 and 1971. So the Air Force sprayed nearly 19 million gallons of herbicides in Vietnam, in Laos, and in Cambodia as part of a military project that they called Operation Ranch Hand. So at least 11 million gallons out of those 19 million were Agent Orange. So the American forces used more than 20 million gallons of herbicides during those years. The name Agent Orange comes from the orange stripe that was on the herbicide barrels. So big barrels with this big orange stripe, hence Agent Orange. What it was a mixture of two chemicals, 2,4-D and 2,4,5-T, which produced a highly toxic byproduct, which we know as dioxin. And dioxin is the primary culprit behind the harmful effects of the Agent Orange exposure. After the war, it became apparent that Agent Orange exposure had long-term effects on the health of many veterans. And then through the recent, release of the PACT Act, which was in 2022, the VA now officially recognizes different conditions that are associated with Agent Orange exposure. And it's very crucial to be aware of these connections so that you can take care of your health and also, of course, get the support that you deserve. Just real quickly, how were veterans exposed to Agent Orange? Well, it's important to note that Agent Orange was not only limited to Vietnam, and we'll get into this real quickly. So if you served in Vietnam, there are different ways you might have been exposed to Agent Orange. One way is on land in Vietnam or on a ship traveling on Vietnam's inland waterways. Another way is on a ship, which would be 12 nautical miles off the coast of Vietnam and Cambodia. And the dates for this exposure are between January 9th, 1962 and May 7th, 1975. This sometimes is referred to as the Blue Water Navy exposure. So those dates that I mentioned are important, right? Because if you were there within that timeline, of course, that is important. Additionally, exposure to Agent Orange may also have occurred in other situations, such as if you were a crew member of a C-123 plane that was used during and after the Vietnam War. These planes may have been or have herbicide residue on them. So that's one possible exposure. Another, serving near the demilitarized zone in Korea between September, again, important dates, September 1967 and August 31st of 1971. And also being stationed on a U.S. Or Royal Thai military base in Thailand, dates January 9, 1962 and June 30th of 1976. Other veterans, other than what I just mentioned, may have been exposed to Agent Orange during tests and storage at military bases in the United States as well, and possibly other countries. including locations added on the PACT Act. So we'll give it over to Ian, and we'll talk a little bit further on the Agent Orange exposure.
Thanks, Cassandra.
Yes.
Yeah, what does Agent Orange do to the body? So Agent Orange can significantly impact the human body due to the presence of dioxin and highly toxic byproduct. Understanding the effects of Agent Orange is essential for taking care of the health. Let's break down the various health conditions related to Agent Orange exposure and explore how the herbicide affects your body. So what are the long-term effects of Agent Orange? Many effects of Agent Orange can take a long time to show up, sometimes even decades after exposure. Dioxin is lipophilic, which means it dissolves in fats and oils. As a result, when dioxin enters the body, it tends to accumulate in fatty tissues instead of being excreted. This makes it difficult for the body to get rid of the dioxin, leading to long-term accumulation and increased exposure to its harmful effects. Let's break down some of the long-term health issues you may be facing. So the effects of Agent Orange exposure, cancer is probably the number one that we see the most of for most vets exposed to Agent Orange. Has been linked to several types of cancer. The dioxin in Agent Orange can cause DNA damage, leading to uncontrolled cell growth and formation of cancerous tumors. Here's some of the cancers associated with the Agent Orange. So soft tissues or sarcomas. And soft tissue sarcomas is a type of cancer that begins in the soft tissues of your body. Hodgkin's disease, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, chronic B-cell leukemias, prostate cancer, respiratory cancer such as lung, bronchus, larynx, and trachea, and multiple myeloma or blood cancer. So neurological disorders are also being affected by the dioxin, can affect the nervous system, disrupting normal functions of neurons, leading to the various neurological disorders. Some neurological issues related to Agent Orange exposures include peripheral neuropathy, Parkinson's disease, and multiple sclerosis. So peripheral neuropathy, damage of nerves caused by numbness and tingling pain in the extremities. Parkinson's disease exposed to chemicals and dioxin can contribute to development of progressive nerves and system disorders. Multiple sclerosis, also known as MS. Some research suggests the environmental factors include exposure to toxins like dioxin may increase the risk of development to autoimmune disease. Some respiratory issues. So breathing in Agent Orange can harm your lungs, respiratory system, and leading to long-term respiratory issues to include chronic bronchitis, asthma, skin. So those two, chronic bronchitis, asthma, and emphysema. Missed that one real quick. So bronchitis is inflammation in the airways, causing persistent cough, producing of mucus, difficulty in breathing, and really can reduce the quality of life and making daily activities more challenging. Asthma exposure that also can trigger and worsen asthma, a chronic lung disease. It's characterized by narrowing the airways. Also known can be seen as wheezing or shortness of breath, the tightness in the chest. Can be as severe as leading to life-threatening asthma attacks. Emphysema, probably one of the worst ones that leads up to this, is the breathing condition. This damages the air sacs in the lungs, makes it harder for you to breathe, getting enough oxygen. Can be debilitating, severe enough inability to produce in working in daily activities or exercise. Skin conditions, talked about a little bit about that. It's basically the dioxin affects the skin or by damaging the cells, causing inflammation of disrupting normal skin function, which can include chloracne, skin rashes, and skin cancers. So chloracne, kind of go down with that one, caused by exposure to dioxin, can be deemed as painful, deep cysts, and lasting with scars that are on the skin. Skin rashes exposed can cause inflammation, leading to a red, itchy, or uncomfortable rashes that could persistently daily affect your daily life. And then skin cancers, of course, extended exposure may increase the risk of developing skin cancers, which include myeloma, basal cell carcinoma, and squamous cell carcinoma. Cardiovascular issues. Dioxin in Agent Orange can contribute to cardiovascular issues, causing inflammation, affecting the blood vessels, and disrupting normal function of the heart, and cardiovascular problems of Agent Orange to include ischemic heart disease and hypertension. And and also peripheral artery disease. We see a lot of hypertension. We see a lot of ischemic heart disease as well, from our Agent Orange vets that we work with. Reducing that blood flow of the heart muscle can cause chest pain and increase the risk of heart attacks. Hypertension, elevated blood pressure can put a strain on your heart and blood vessels, increasing the risk of heart disease or a stroke. And peripheral heart artery disease, narrowing in the arteries in the legs, causing leg pain, cramping, poor circulation, and so on, and mobility and quality of life. Going into gastrointestinal disorders, toxic can produce the dioxin and damage to the gastrointestinal system, can lead into gastrointestinal disorders associated to the exposure, such as liver dysfunction, GERD, or also known as gastroesophageal reflux disease, and ulcers. Can cause liver damage leading to impaired liver function. Chronic exposure can cause difficulty swallowing, heartburn, and chest pains. Ulcers can cause inflammation in the stomach lining and leading to ulcers as well. Reproductive issues, birth defects in children of exposed veterans, miscarriage of stillbirths, and erectile dysfunction. Basically, it's the exposure, the reproductive health issues related to Agent Orange exposure can cause this as well. A little on the psychological effects. We deal a lot of this as kind of our, called mental health as our bread and butter. Chronic pain, disability with the veterans experience as a result of their exposure. These physical challenges can contribute to feelings of depression, anxiety, and PTSD. And with that, I'm going to kick it back over to Sandra and talk a little about the Agent Orange presumptive conditions. Take it away, Sandra.
Yes. So going a little bit further into Agent Orange presumptive conditions. So I know Ian just touched upon many of the conditions that may be presumptive conditions for exposure to Agent Orange. So if you are experiencing one of these conditions that Ian mentioned, and also that I'm going to mention here in a second, and you were exposed to Agent Orange during your military service, the VA will automatically assume that your exposure caused these conditions, right? So it's going to make it a lot easier for you to get a VA disability rating. We're going to go over these conditions a little bit more. And here they are. AL, amyl, okay, and please bear with me with the pronunciation. These are extremely very medical terms here, but amyloidosis, AL, is a rare disease that affects different organs with abnormal protein deposits. Chronic B-cell leukemias, chloracne, or other similar acne-form diseases, type 2 diabetes, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, ischemic heart disease, multiple myeloma, which is a blood cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, I think I just mentioned that, Parkinson's disease, acute and subacute peripheral neuropathy. Again, that's a disease that affects the peripheral nerves, and it causes weakness or numbness and pain in your feet and your hands. Porphyria cutanea tarda, that is a disorder which is characterized by liver dysfunction and by thinning and blistering of the skin in sun-exposed areas. Prostate cancer, respiratory cancers, including lung cancer, cancer of the lung, the larynx, trachea, and bronchial or bronchus. Soft tissue sarcomas, other than osteosarcoma, chondrosarcoma, and Kaposis sarcoma, or mesothelioma. All these are a group of different types of cancers in body tissue, such as muscle, fat, blood, and lymph vessels, and connective tissues. So those were a list of the presumptive conditions. And then we also have a list of presumptive Agent Orange birth defects, right? For children who were born to women in Vietnam veterans, or even if you were married and had a child with birth defects. So dwarfism is one of them, cleft lip and cleft palate, congenital heart disease, congenital talus equine clubfoot, easier, esophageal and intestinal atresia, Hallerman-Streiff syndrome, which is a rare condition which is characterized by an unusually shaped skull, distinctive facial features, thin skin and hair and eye and dental abnormalities, hip dysplasia, Hirschsprung's disease, which is a congenital megacolon, and then excess fluid in the brain, hypospadias, neural tube defects, Poland syndrome, which is an underdeveloped chest muscle and short-webbed fingers on one side of the body. Another condition, pyloric stenosis, which is in infants in which the narrowing of the opening from the stomach to the small intestine is preventing food from entering the intestine. Fused digits and tracheoesophageal fistula, which is an abnormal connection between the esophagus and the trachea. Undescended testicle, and then Williams syndrome, which is a rare genetic disorder that causes developmental and learning disabilities. So many obviously here listed as far as birth defects, but you can always get with a coach here at VACI, and we can definitely delve into this a little bit further if needed. I know that was a lot to listen to, a lot of names there. So go ahead, Ian. I'm going to let him talk about, filing a claim, the most important part for you. So go ahead.
Yeah, Sandra touched on a really important thing too. Definitely get with your coach about some of these things if you do get signed to a coach and get on board, because some of these conditions require a time frame too. So just keep that in mind, and you and your coach can talk that over about those things as well.
Mm-hmm.
So number one, check if you're qualified for a presumptive service-connected condition. This is a current condition of the VA presumptive list for Agent Orange that we mentioned, or if we mentioned. Excuse me. If it is, the VA will presume the connection between, meaning you won't have to prove direct link between your service and your condition when filing your claim. You'll still need to show that you have a current diagnosis, provide evidence in a service event or injury, i.e. the actual exposure of the Agent Orange. Many times you can prove exposure through military service records showing you were in a certain location on a certain time. So basically what that means is on your DD-214, on orders, if you happen to have, I've seen pictures where you guys were out there and they had actual pictures from the locations, showed the dates and the place where they were at. All of that stuff is very important. There's that medical evidence that we talked about. Some of those things can be used as what's called as a sentinel event too. So just keep that in mind. Again, you'll hear all that stuff when you start talking to your coach and actually getting signed up and getting on board and becoming a part of the elite program. So number two, gather evidence. Okay, so if your Agent Orange exposure condition isn't on a presumptive list, don't worry, you can still apply for VA disability based on Agent Orange exposure. You'll still need to collect some extra evidence to establish a service connection for your disability. Make sure you have evidence of a diagnosis, condition considered disability by the VA, evidence exposure of Agent Orange during your service, evidence of link between Agent Orange exposure and medical condition you're claiming. So key parts they're looking for to make sure that you understand that you need these things in order to be connected for the disability. Okay, they can't just go off of something or offer a word, unfortunately. But if you have evidence that shows these things, shows the link, a buddy letter or what have you, there's other avenues to travel actually to show the exposure. If your condition is on the presumptive list, you'll still need medical evidence of your current disability and military records proving your exposure. Again, following up with that part. Finally, filing your claim for Agent Orange. Okay, so all the evidence in hand, it's time for you to file your claim. You can submit your claim online through the va.gov website, by mail, or in person, the regional office. Typically, most often, if you're working with a coach, it's going to be on va.gov. It's the simple, most easy process to do it. Very few people use the mail anymore or do it in person. If you're working with the VSO, of course, you're probably going to go in person to a regional office and do it that way. But most cases with us, of course, you're going to be doing this online. Be sure to include your necessary documentation to support your claim to file a fully developed claim, also known as what we call an acronym of FDC, fully developed claim. And this is to reduce the amount of time that you're going to be waiting on the decision from your claim. So let's talk a little bit about fully developed claims. This is known as the Kaluza triangle. In-service event, aggravation, or illness of causation of the condition. So that sentinel event that I just talked about, or just a causation of the illness. A recent diagnosis from a medical professional within the last 12 months, and a nexus. Okay, you do need a nexus which links that in-service event and that diagnosis. Without one of these three elements, the VA can and will deny you for your claim. Okay, so just want to kind of clarify and show you what that fully developed claim means. Because if you're not filing a fully developed claim, you're doing yourself a disservice because it's going to take a lot of time for the VA to come back for a decision.
Yeah, agreed.
Right.
And you know, a lot of the veterans that I speak to on a daily basis, you know, one of the most important things is a diagnosis, right? Because if you do not have a diagnosis, then the VA says, well, then you don't have a condition, meaning there's nothing that you're suffering from related to the exposure. So diagnosis is extremely important. If you feel that, you know, any of the conditions that we just reviewed and talked about is something that, you know, affects you or has been affecting you, make sure you reach out to your doctor and ensure that, you'll eventually receive a diagnosis for that condition. So then you can move forward with your claim. So take action, very important if you aren't happy with the results. So if you are a veteran, this is another topic basically, but if you are a veteran dealing with the effects of the Agent Orange and you're not satisfied with the outcome of your VA claim, so if you've already submitted a claim to the VA and let's say they denied you, then you do have options, right? You always have options. If there is a denial for whatever claim, whatever condition that you submitted, you always can submit an appeal. There are 3 forms of appeals. Number 1 would be called a higher level review. This is an appeal, but you actually get to speak to a decision review officer, which is a person at the VA, higher standing. And what they do is they give you a call and they say, hey, tell me why you disagree with our decision. So that's one way. You cannot provide new and relevant evidence to that appeal, but you do get to speak to someone if that's something you'd like to do. As far as another type of appeal, it's called the supplemental claim. This is an appeal that will allow you to add new and relevant evidence for the VA to review. Of course, again, if you were denied. And then the last appeal method would be at the Veteran Board of Affairs. So that's a different type of appeal. These tend to take a lot longer than the higher level review or supplemental claim. These unfortunately take a couple more years, 2 to more years for decision. So try the first 2 initially, and then your last resort would be the board. And then just one thing to keep in mind, you are not alone in this journey. There are many resources that are available to you to help you fight for the benefits that you deserve, including us, VA Claims Insider. So don't give up. Keep pushing forward until you receive the support and more importantly, the recognition you've earned for your service. And thank you again, all. I've been seeing all these wonderful comments, all these Vietnam veterans, and I do have to say it's an honor to be here again with you all today. Thank you. Go ahead, Ian. We're going to close it out, and then we'll have some questions to answer here.
Yeah, for sure. The Q&A would actually, we're actually going to take the question and answers first. Apologize for that part, and then we'll do closing thoughts and closeouts for the end part. But just looking at some questions, and I just want to give some clarity too, so that you understand what the appeals process means before we get into that real quick, if you don't mind, Sandra. Higher level reviews, you do have to make sure you are in a matter in fact or a matter in law. And if you're talking to your coach, you'll understand what that means when you're going through your decision letters. And those decision letters are really important to us because that kind of gives us clarity of what exactly happened in that review or in that claim and the increase or that supplemental or whatever you worked on to get to that higher level review. Okay, and that's the next step before you go to VBA. And VBA is really the last straw. And we ourselves, as far as VACI, don't work on those claims, just so you're aware. Supplemental claims are definitely one of those two. It has to be new and relevant evidence, so make sure it's new and relevant evidence. whenever you're filing those claims too. Just want to clarify that stuff as well. And so that you understand stuff too. And of course, again, we'll go over this as well, probably 100 times if I really wanted to and needed to, because it's so important. If you're struggling, if you're stuck, if you're really just done with the process, it's time not to give up. It's time to actually put this into action and move forward with the process. Get on board with a coach, get on board with one of our veteran ambassadors, and really, dive deep into your claims so that we can get you going. So you can go in there to vaclaimsinsider.com and get assigned to a coach. It's a pretty simple process, and sign up for free. But diving into some of these questions, Sandra, I'm seeing quite a few that are highlighted. Let's go ahead and start at the top of the board, if we can find one. Again, welcome everyone that put their shout outs for everybody. Saw a couple from Texas, a couple from Florida. So welcome. Brett Meadows, how can you battle with the VA on Agent Orange exposure if you served in Guam from 84 to 90 and the pact that was limited to 65 and 80? Yeah, unfortunately, Brent and Sandra, you can chime into this one too. Unless you fall into the category of that PACT Act, it's not going to be fall underneath to that presumptive, but it's not the end of all be all. The exposure could still be, and of course, let's clarify some things too. When you're filing for a claim for Agent Orange, you have to file for a claim for one of the conditions. Okay, exposure in itself is not a claimable condition, so you can't just file for Agent Orange exposure. You have to file for one of those conditions that you actually have a condition for. So that's very important.
Yes.
Man.
So, right.
Go ahead, Sandra.
No, I was just going to ask Brent if there is a specific condition that you are suffering from related to Agent Orange exposure. Then, there are ways. We talked about it earlier, and actually Ian mentioned it earlier. If you are outside of the realm of those dates, it doesn't hurt to try, right? You can always submit your claim to the VA and see, what the outcome is. You were indeed exposed. And so you'll leave it to the VA to determine, what the outcome may be. They may entertain it. If not, they will explain specifically why they cannot. And that will give you, the resources to go back and maybe provide them with what they need, right? So first of all is a diagnosis of a condition that you suffer from that exposure to Agent Orange. I wanted to address another question here. Thank you for this live, Tanette. Thank you for being with us today. So you're currently and have been for a while caring for your father, Antonio Gonzalez. He is 72, Vietnam Army War vet who receives no additional benefits. He has no percentage on service connection yet and has suffered mental illness and other disabilities such as PTSD, hearing loss, memory loss, and vision loss. So I'm all ears. Yes, I hope you were, Tanette. If you have the chance to connect with us using our, vaclaims.help or scheduling a call with us, I highly recommend you get with a coach. The process can be a little frustrating. You do have a lot of paperwork to accumulate, diagnoses, medical evidence. So I would say, he totally deserves to be at some percentage for what he's done for our country. He's 72 years old with no disability compensation. He definitely deserves to. So if you get a chance, Tanette, please connect with us, and we would be more than happy to coach you through that process for sure. And thank you, Antonio, for your service, sir.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think Sandra and I both can say that Vietnam War vets hold a large piece in our heart because of what you guys did there. So thank you for your service. My dad was a Vietnam War vet too, and that's why you do hold that small piece. Unfortunately, he didn't make it through to see the PACT Act, see light, but glad that you guys are actually getting the afforded opportunity to see this and paying tribute to all you guys. So thank you for your service.
Absolutely.
This is a good question. I hear this one a lot too. Actually, this is going to be a common one we're going to see as well. Not in a presumptive unit, but spent a lot of time at the DMZ TDY, but did still get denied. I was 6 miles base from the DMZ. VIA says in or near, well, 6 miles is pretty near. Have photos, buddy letters, and chemical expert documentation. Your question is 12 miles off the coast is considered exposed. Why not 6 miles boots on ground? Whew. Yeah, that's a tough one, Wayne.
Read that decision letter. Why were you denied? What were the specifics of that decision letter? Why did they deny you? They usually specify, and they'll say the reason we denied you is because you're missing this. We don't have this. There's a possibility that you didn't have a diagnosis for a condition, or if it's depending on time, distance. Appeal it. Appeal. You have the ability to appeal these claims. I agree with you, Wayne. Yeah, you should be recognized. So if you haven't as of yet, I would definitely appeal and or read that decision letter thoroughly to see why you were denied, because that is pretty close, 6 miles, boots on ground. And sometimes, we are all human, obviously, and sometimes the VA makes mistakes. Maybe they didn't see some type of evidence that you provided. Make sure you review those decision letters and appeal. Always appeal if you can. Do you have anything else on that, Ian?
No, and the key part of that too is in the PACT, it says near the DMZ. So I would appeal just basis off of that too.
Yeah.
If they have specificities of what the mile marker is, your coach will be able to let you know that stuff too. But I would still appeal it. Being that close, I've got a bunch of other vets that were close to the DMZ, but they weren't exactly on it and all that stuff too. So definitely get with your coach or get with a coach if you're not already with a coach, and start discussing these things. But if you're not with a coach, get signed up free with vaclaimsinsider.com again, and or get on board and get a discovery call in with one of our veteran ambassadors.
Yeah.
That'll be your best bet.
And I'm sorry, he just added that he's been fighting for 15 years. So, there may be other claims or other conditions that you are suffering from, or that we can discuss moving forward with, instead of focusing maybe on one specific claim and dealing with that one. There may be other venues that we can entertain, or that you can entertain. So 15 years is a long time. And so maybe, look at it in a different way to see, do you qualify for any other conditions as well, and start there as well. So looking forward to having you on board. If you haven't been with us as of yet, love to help you out there. Let's see. What about toxins from the burn pits in Vietnam? They burned everything at the Khe Sanh while the C-123s were spraying Agent Orange all around Khe Sanh combat base. So that's a great question. Do you have a diagnosis for any of the conditions that would be related to the exposure for your burn pit exposure? So any toxic exposure, what are those conditions? What are you diagnosed with? And then move forward with that. So I believe so. I think earlier, I know earlier Ian was talking about respiratory conditions, lung conditions, bronchial conditions, asthmas, emphysemas. Those are all related to exposure. So if those are, one of the conditions that you suffer from, that's a possibility then.
Yeah, it sure is. You can definitely, if you aren't already seeing the VA, there's a thing called the toxic exposure risk activity as well. Terra, it's also an option there too. They can go through all the things and see what's there. So that's one key part of it too. There's another comment in here that was a little earlier, and I guess I missed it. Rusty Johnson asked, if started a higher level review, can you start a new and different claim at the same time? So You can, but definitely get with a coach, or if you're doing this on your own, be careful on how many claims you file for. But here's the case of this. So higher level review, and we'll say new, supplemental, and increases, right? So higher level review is a different. We'll say this is a fork in the road, and on the higher level review side, a DRO is going to go and review your record. Whereas if it's a supplemental increase or a new claim, it's going to be an adjudicator. So in most cases, you can file those in conjunction with each other. It's not going to hurt anything because it's two separate, and they're not going to defer those. There's no reason for them to defer those. Now, on the other side of the house, if you file a supplemental increase or any of those other together, and you file a supplemental, and then 2 months later you want to file an increase, one of those will get deferred. It's almost a guarantee. Not a complete guarantee, but it's a pretty good high probability they're gonna clump them together, or one's gonna get deferred. Anything to add, Sandra?
No, no, that sounds about right. But in essence, Rusty, yes, you can, but always check with, you want to make sure. But if you have a higher level review pending, and we, unfortunately, those can take some time. On average, 4 to 6 months for a decision. If you have a new condition that you want to submit for, you can indeed a new claim, because it will not interfere with the progress in the process of the higher level review. It's a different lane, 2 different types of claims. Let's see. Rebecca, I received a claim from the Army that my husband was around the Agent Orange, and we had a daughter that was born with many birth defects, but I put a claim to the Army, but they informed me that there was nothing the Army could do. I would like to see if I can get some help with the claim. Absolutely. When you say the Army, I'm not sure if you are meaning VA. Probably not, but that would be something that you would have to submit to the VA directly, benefit side, right, for disability compensation. So that is definitely something we were talking about earlier, the birth defects. And I'm sorry to hear that, but absolutely, if you haven't yet, get with a coach and get the coaching you need to move through with that claim. For sure. We have another question here. Is Agent Orange associated with AFib? I believe so. I mean, AFib, in my opinion, is, related to the heart, and heart conditions are related to Agent Orange. Ian?
Yes, they are. AFib directly is not, but again, we're going to go back to what we talked about before. If you're exposed and you believe you got a diagnosis, and there's only other reason that you possibly have that diagnosis is because of your exposure, have the right evidence, have all the things, all your ducks in a row. But definitely go over that with your coach and see what they say as well. If you do get signed up with a coach, get, on that free call. Again, VAClaimsInsider.com is one way to do it. Or again, that free call that's with one of the veteran ambassadors as well.
All right.
Still a good question, but there is some conditions like ischemic heart disease and peripheral artery disease and stuff like that. So there's some out there that could be closely related to it. So I would say it could be, but having the right evidence, having your ducks in a row is going to be a key part of that, and keep the fight up. That's the other part too. Definitely keeping the fight. W.M. Burleson says a lot of older veterans feel left behind under the PACT Act during the time periods for many of us Vietnam and Vietnam era veterans. Medical records and determinations are non-existent. Moreover, we are basically not allowed to be sick. How do we address these problems? Great question. Key parts, we talk a lot about our veterans too, and I'm gonna tell you right now, when I went through this process, I did not have my C-file, I did not have my military records in front of me whenever I started filing. Medical records are not end of all be all. Your current diagnosis is what the VA is looking for anyway, and what was that exposure, what was the causation of the action, and really identifying those things is going to kind of be important. whether they're existent or not, there's other ways and other avenues you can prove that nexus and prove that it's connected. D214 alone can show exposure based on the fact that you're in Vietnam. That's the big part of that. Any other things that you might have an award or any of those other things too, or the badge. Those are all pieces that you can use for evidence to show that you were exposed. And not to mention, if it's something like, we'll use mental health, they're still going to VA is going to still do their own investigative purposes to identify the event as well, to make sure that it was there. But for the most part, it's just a matter of, what evidence do you have to show, and what other evidence do you need to prove?
Yeah, absolutely. Many other options.
Tons.
Yes. Let's see. I had here a question. Jerry, can you confirm if Parkinsonian can be claimed from Agent Orange? I'm not sure if that's an actual condition or a typo, but Parkinson's disease definitely is one of the presumptive Agent Orange exposure conditions. So if you meant Parkinson's disease or Parkinsonism, yes, absolutely. Can be claimed as Agent Orange exposure for sure.
Yeah, just make sure your medical professional, your doctor is not mistyping that in your diagnosis, because it should be Parkinson's disease.
Yeah, and then we have another question from Yvonne. My husband works for a company that made Agent Orange. Is there anything we can do? Again, was your husband working for a company that made Agent Orange during service? So that's number one. And then number two, does he have any diagnoses that are related to the presumptive list? If so, then yes, you can move forward with a claim for whatever the condition is related to exposure. But again, remember the service connection, which is the Kaluza triangle that Coach Ian was talking about earlier. There needs to be a connection to service, right? The VA provides disability compensation to veterans during service, conditions that occurred during service. So that's very important.
Absolutely. I want to touch on Daniel King's question, or more of a statement too. He says he finally got 100%, but nothing for Agent Orange. File in 89, never got any compensation. Do I have a chance for compensation? So I'm going to tell you this for sure, to not poke the bear. Okay. If you're at 100%, you don't want to do anything else. What the VA will do for you will have that, not the duty to assist, but really the providability that they have to provide you care for those disabilities, whether you're service connected for the disability or not. I'm not service connected for chronic rhinitis or for my GERD, but they still gave me medication. They still gave me it still gave me all the things that we needed for that respiratory condition or that sinus condition. So they will still provide you the necessities to be able to care for yourself, be able to be seen for those conditions. You don't necessarily have to be service connected, but if you're 100%, you probably don't want to file any more claims, because if you do, you could potentially lose that 100%. So I don't want to see that happen. So that would be my take on that. Sandra, anything else?
I'm not sure if you're asking like to compensation to go back to 1989 as far as back pay, or is it literally any other compensation? So if you're at 100%, I wholeheartedly agree with Coach Ian. Just let it be. There's nowhere else that you can go after that 100%. There are there's other income that you can talk about, which is called special monthly compensation, which is compensation above the 100% income that you're receiving. And that's a whole different subject. But if you do have a coach, get with your coach or sign up with us, and we can absolutely talk about that. Let's see.
Got time for one more and we get to close out.
Yes. Let's see. Is there a certain amount of time that you would have to have been exposed to burn pits to qualify? And would a buddy statement and diagnosis suffice? I don't think I have any pictures. That's fine if you don't have any pictures. However, yeah, buddy letters can absolutely help support your claim. They are not medical evidence, so they don't hold as much weight as medical evidence, but absolutely a diagnosis will suffice. As far as timeline, the VA, and I believe you're talking about burn pit exposure, not obviously Agent Orange, but specifically to burn pit exposure, you have to have been diagnosed within 10 years of separation from active duty. So as long as you have a diagnosis that was rendered within 10 years, yes, you would qualify. If not, I would say try and accumulate medical evidence to establish the link between that condition and your exposure to burn pits, meaning a medical professional stating that in their opinion, your condition indeed was related to service. We call those nexus letters, but basically medical evidence to support the correlation between one and another.
But if you can prove the presumptive factor, and I just want to kind of touch on the time frame to be exposed, there is no time frame. You could step foot for 5 minutes off the plane, or be in the air, or off the coast on an aircraft carrier, and you're still considered underneath the presumptive list for both Southwest and Southeast Asia for burn pits. So just kind of touch on the time frames. I think what he was looking for as well, because that's kind of important as well. A lot of vets think they have to be there for the whole deployment. You really don't. You could have been an Air Force vet stepping off for refuel or whatever, and could have been exposed in Balad or Taji or anywhere else. But hope that clarifies things for you. And with that, we're going to close things out and recap the topic. Presumptives for Agent Orange. Again, really simming down to the, actually use that, no pun intended, talking about the SEM method, strategy, education, medical evidence, again, working up that game plan, having good resources that are provided to you, both the Facebook Lives, our classes, and everything else, and getting that medical evidence, because it does and it will win claims. One-on-one coaching with one of us, either myself or Sandra or any of the other wonderful coaches across our organization, getting that strategy session in after you have that welcome call, figuring out what that game plan is, finally actually submitting your claim, going through that process with your coach, and then after you've got the claim submitted, getting that notification back of that CMP exam, and definitely getting the coaching and education from that as well. Attend as many classes as you like through via Zoom. We have them 3 times a day throughout Monday through Friday. Wednesdays, typically no classes, only the Facebook Lives. So Coffee with the Coaches are typically Monday through Friday as well. We have mental health education class on both Monday and Thursday, Monday at 7 p.m. Central and Thursday at 12 p.m. Central. We also have a medical exam education class also on Monday at 12 p.m. Central and on Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central. And then also our new client orientation class, which is on Tuesday at 12 and Thursday at 7 p.m. Central. I think I got them all. Great to have you guys be joining a part of this afternoon. And great news, on July 9th, a new book of Brian Reese will be available, VA Claims Secrets. And you can pre-order it on Amazon or download it online for free at the link on the chat. Book that discovery call. You want to learn more, schedule the free discovery call, talk to one of our team members by going to vaclaims.help. So if you need any help, reach out to our organization, vaclaimsinsider.com. We love to partner with you on your claim journey. Thank you so much, Sandra. Great to do a class with you again. Lives are great, as always. Happy as everyone would be to be here. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye for now.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for your service again and joining us today. We appreciate you greatly. Hope to see you soon. Take care.